We just read Luke chapter 21, which is that kind of reading that you expect to have at the end of the ordinary time, you know. In fact, we just read this reading, or part of it, chapter 21 of Luke. And it was, a few days ago, because at the end of the ordinary time, usually our look goes toward the end of the world. It's the apocalyptic language, and it's the eschatologic talk, which means look at the end, at the last things that are going to happen at the end, right? But what does it mean to have this reading today? We are supposed to prepare Christmas. So we're supposed to have maybe something that gives us more, hope, something that gives us some consolation, because Jesus is coming. So the question is this an appropriate reading? Of course it is, but why? This is an appropriate reading for today, Sunday, for this Sunday. Well, the context of the reading is the one that sees Jesus in the Temple of Jerusalem. He just saw those people putting money in the treasure, and then the widow, putting few coins. And after that, there is somebody who is catching the attention of Jesus and is asking him, look at this temple. This temple is beautiful. Why don't you admire with us the beauty of the temple? Yes, actually, the Temple of Jerusalem, the one who was built by Herod the Great, was one of the 7 beauties of the ancient world. But Jesus' answer was so unexpected that I think that they got very disappointed and maybe probably a little bit upset, because the answer of Jesus was, look, there will be one day, and it will be very soon, that it will not remain one stone upon another one. Everything will be thrown down. So imagine, after you built your house, your beautiful house, and somebody may come and say it will be destroyed very soon, you will be very upset about it. It's the last week of the life of Jesus. So Jesus is about to die, in a few days. And so it's as if he's preparing the disciples for something that seems tragic, that seems the end of the world, which is the death of the Messiah, the death of the Master, and the death of Jesus. But after all, that tragedy is our only salvation. In fact, in this gospel, yes, we have words of hope. When Jesus says, when you see these tragic things, raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. So he's trying not to give us some fear, but to take out our eyes from fear. Because we are too much concentrated in fear. Every day, probably, above all those days when we are not really in the grace of God, and maybe you leave for a trip and you think, what if something bad happens? Am I ready? Am I ready to meet God? Maybe sometimes you find yourself in sin, maybe in a mortal sin, and you think, what is going to happen? And so you feel, that rush, that urgency to go to confession. Yeah, of course, it's good to go to confession. But it's as if, the last moment is the most important moment of an entire life. It becomes like being like a Russian roulette. A Russian roulette. So it depends, the last second. If the last second you are all right, all your life will be all right, and it doesn't matter how you lived. But if the last second you're not all right, maybe you went to church every day and in the morning, and the last moment you made a mistake and you will go to hell. Is it possible that God will judge us this way? The best answer to this was given, I believe, from a priest, a general father of a congregation who was called one day, a few years ago, in Sicily, where I come from, in Palermo, in the cathedral of Palermo. He was called for a funeral. The funeral of a priest of his congregation who had committed suicide. He was not only a priest, he was a parish priest. He was the superior of his community. And he was a religious, so a consecrated person. So he had the vows. And everybody was waiting, sometimes I mentioned this already. Everybody was waiting. What is this priest now going to say? They were in the cathedral and it was packed. He was a young man, very well known. And the priest was Father Flavio. Don Flavio used to be the general father of this congregation for 12 years. A very wise and holy priest. And when he started his homily, he said, "You don't judge the life of a man from the last moment of desperation. Because God is looking at the entire arc of your life." And so I am proud of this son for all that he did. And it doesn't matter if the last moment he was left alone and he did something stupid. Yes, after all, we are in time, but God is not in time. So for us there is before and after. But for God everything is present. All your life is present. The first second when you are born and the last one when you die, all this time is present to God as if it's the same. There is not a difference for God. So what does it mean? That if the last moment coincides with the first moment, it means that every moment is the last one. Yes. If 1 is equal to 1,000, it means that also 2, 3, 4, and all the seconds in the middle, they are all the moment that God is looking at you as if it was the last one. And this makes more sense. And it makes sense also with what Jesus is saying. So I'm not looking at the end of the world, that you have to get prepared, because it will be sudden. It will be unexpected. And so you gotta be scared. No. Jesus is not really referring to the end of this world. Why? Otherwise this gospel wouldn't be for us. This gospel would be only for those few people that will have the chance to be alive during the end of the world, which is less than 100% probably of humanity. How can it be possible that an entire page of the gospel is not for us? And is not for all the people who lived in this past 2,000 years. And probably for not even for those who will live for 2,000 more years. No, the gospel is for everybody. This gospel is for us. Because every single moment, God is coming in our life. And we gotta be prepared this moment. So it doesn't matter. It's worthless to be too much concentrated in the last moment. What Jesus is saying, be concentrated in your now, in your present. This is the moment when God is coming. And who is coming unexpectedly? Evil. Evil is coming all of a sudden, and he wants to steal something from your life. That is something that you gotta be scared of. But Jesus is announcing, and this is the gospel, and this is the good news, is announcing that the old world is about to go, because in a week he will be offering his life for our salvation. And so even though you will find yourself, this is what Jesus is saying, you will find yourself in the most tragic situation, nothing will touch your soul. Because I brought salvation for your soul. And even though you will go through the most terrible things of this life, but your soul is still saved. And this is the life of a Christian, to have peace in his soul, even though everything around you is going so bad. You may experience the most terrible situations, but still keep peace in your soul, because God in Jesus brought salvation to you.